hold of the most extraordinary cache of 3,000 emails, which are supposedly Bashar and Asma al-Assad's private mails. Now, how do they know if they really are? Well, they say they were handed those emails by a group of Syrian opposition activists who've been following them for 9 months, collecting them and having hacked in. And they reckon they've proved what's going on. Firstly, the dates of the emails correspond to real events, which are commented in the mails. Then the Guardian's contacted 10 people whose mails are quoted in there, including the former British ambassador to Syria and the ABC producers who set up an interview with al-Assad, who've confirmed they're real emails in there. And so they reckon they are justified in publishing them, and they can't, though, confirm that every one of the 3,000 emails is authentic. They say the opposition group could have falsified some. But nevertheless, then, what does this cache reveal? Well, a real wealth of stuff. There's things like family photos and videos and very personal things in there. They seem to have been not sort of government email accounts. These are really personal. And they include, amongst other things, evidence that Assad contacted Iran for advice on how to deal with the uprising, evidence that Bashar and Asma al-Assad actually shared videos between themselves which mocked the uprising, including ones which showed the Arab League observers unable to find hidden regime weapons and things like that. So if this is true, they're actually laughing at the violence going on. They also show things like that Assad works with a very narrow inner circle, not necessarily dealing with a lot of his own cabinet ministers in terms of private correspondence. And it shows even his iTunes shopping. It shows that they've got a number of fake companies set up under false names so that they can avoid US sanctions and do their shopping in Europe, in the US. So we can even find out what music he listens to. Apparently he's a big fan of Leona Lewis, country and western, and Harry Potter. But they've got that double page there showing also some of his wife's shopping, which is very lavish indeed, including 15,000 euros just last month on tables, candlesticks and candeliers ordered from a shop here in Paris. Christian Louboutin shoes, very expensive jewellery, diamonds, all ordered, of course, in the last few months when all of this violence has been going on in Syria. They seem to be living, the paper says, in a gilded cocoon with very little relationship to what's going on outside. Yeah, fascinating insight, as you say, though, assuming it's true. Moving on from the mails, what about Kofi Annan's recent visit? He's set to give the UN a bit of an account of his trip to Syria. This is happening tomorrow, isn't it? Yes, but there aren't very high hopes from analysts in the papers that he can actually achieve anything. Look at this cartoon from Gulf News. It shows the Syrian regime dropping Annan's proposal into a grave. So they're pretty cynical that anything can be achieved. Their editorial, though, thinks that Assad might still be persuaded to step down. They say he needs to put Syria's interests ahead of his own, and that he might still be persuaded to resign and go into exile somewhere like Qatar. In some of those emails, the Emir of Qatar's daughter offers the Assads exile if they do step down. So there is that hope being held out by some analysts. Others, though, think there's just no chance of any diplomatic efforts working. Look at the National's editorial. They talk about the possibility of getting high-level figures within the Assad regime to defect. They say the very strong loyalty of those people has helped shore up the regime in the past, but maybe they'll realise they're vulnerable in the case of a fall, and things like US visas could encourage them to leave. And any hope in the papers for the opposition? Well, the Washington Post has got a long piece really paying tribute to the opposition, saying their determination and their bravery has not died. They talk to activists in hiding or in exile who've already lost their jobs and their homes because of their activism, but say they wouldn't do things differently for anything. There's a piece in the New York Times, though, showing effectively the opposition's problem. It keeps splitting and splitting. They say the fall of Homs and Idlib have led to at least 4 senior figures in the SNC, Syrian National Council, resigning because they felt the council had betrayed the people in those cities by not arming them more, not helping to supply them with arms. So the thing is, this situation is endlessly complex. There's at least 8 different Syrian opposition groups, the New York Times says, who don't necessarily agree with one another about what should be done, which makes any hope of a diplomatic solution really tricky because diplomats just don't know who to talk to. Elena, thanks very much. There's Elena of the International Papers and a lot more features and special reports and interviews on Syria throughout the day here on France 24. Now, on to the rest of the news. And last week, they posted on a blog that they'd enjoyed a torchlit march